Maybe you thought blood libels against Jews were just an issue from the Dark Ages. Well, unfortunately, a big unfortunately, the BBC has taken us back to a very dark time in world history and is again spreading unbelievable lies about the Israeli military. In the face of what's actually happening here and the IDF's valiant efforts to rid Israel of terrorism, the BBC prefers to back the terrorist and condemn the IDF's anti-terror mission. Guys, stay tuned here, and we'll lay it all out for you using the very own words from the BBC, the interviews. We'll lay it all out here. Stay tuned. I'm Joshua, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda. You should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, today we are talking about a very heated topic, one of, as we just mentioned, of ancient, historic, dark ages kind of thing. But in today's world, we see Jew hatred once again raising its ugly head on the world stage. Let's go right to it. The BBC interview this week with former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Unbelievable. I mean, I was just stunned when I saw this. I'm used to seeing, fairly anti-Israel content, but to see the BBC going blatant libel, blood libel on Israel was really horrific to see this. Quote, "Is that what the military set out to do? Kill people between the age of 16 and 18? What kind of question is that? My gracious." Naftali Bennett gives some great responses, but let's watch this real quick. BBC question.
Well, we're joined now by the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett from Jerusalem. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Anjana.
First of all, the Israeli military are calling this a military operation, but we now know that young people are being killed, 4 of them under 18. Is that really what the military set out to do, to kill people between the ages of 16 and 18?
Now, you heard it for yourself. That's what came from the BBC, straight in an interview, as if Naftali Bennett was supposed to answer that, what is going on? What a horrifically Jew-hating question, and so far from the truth. Naftali Bennett here gives a wonderful response. I want to dig that real quick.
Quite the contrary. Actually, all 11 people dead there are militants. The fact that there's young terrorists that decide to hold arms is their responsibility. Look, at the end of the day, over the past year or so, we've had over 50 Israelis murdered, in many cases by terrorists that were sent from Jenin camp, armed, trained, and sent to kill and murder Israelis in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and across Israel. And Jenin has become an epicenter of terror. So we, unfortunately, had to enter this hornet's nest of terror and neutralize the terror. Otherwise, they're going to continue killing us. So in fact, all the Palestinians that were killed are terrorists in this case.
Next question the BBC comes up with is, again, absolutely atrocious. They say this: terrorist, but children. The Israeli forces are happy to kill children. This, again, is more like a statement, but then stated to Naftali Bennett. And again, we'll give you Naftali Bennett's response.
Terrorists, but children. The Israeli forces are happy to kill children.
You know, it's quite remarkable that you'd say that, because they're killing us. Now, if there's a 17-year-old Palestinian that's shooting at your family, Anjana, what is he?
Under your definition, you are calling them terrorists. The UN are calling them children.
I'm actually asking you, what would you call a 17-year-old person with a rifle shooting at your family and murdering your own family? How would you define that person?
We're not talking about that. The UN has defined them as children. The UN has defined them as children, and we know that 4 people between the ages of 16 and 18 have been killed in this targeted attack. Let's not forget, it's a targeted attack. The Israeli forces are going in looking
these are
for
terrorists.
these people.
I'm missing something. You know, a 17-year-old terrorist can murder civilians. There's a fundamental difference between what they're doing, which is explicitly and deliberately targeting civilians, and what we're doing, which is targeting terrorists. That's exactly the opposite. We're doing the right thing. They're killing civilians. And the fact that you're creating this moral equivalent, or even worse, I think it's unacceptable.
After all this, I love Naftali Bennett's final word. We'll play that clip really quickly. It's a great win. And I would say, got to give it to Naftali on this one.
You've been around politics for a very long time. This is a generational thing. How is it ever going to end?
When they decide that they accept a Jewish state in the land of Israel, it'll end.
What baffles me is that the BBC is not ignorant, people that are not, they're people that are educated, they understand. What they don't seem to understand is that in the terrorist world, children are their main weapon. They use the 16 to 18-year-olds to fight Israel, the state of Israel, and they know that people like the BBC will back them up and try to disguise this as though Israel's the criminal when it's actually the opposite. The entity that would take a child, send them to summer camps, and train them how to fight and kill is the real criminal. Watch this clip if you don't believe what I'm telling you now.
The Al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas's military wing opened registration for their annual summer camp in Gaza. Always stating their cause, Hamas titled this year's session, "We're Going to Jerusalem." The camp was launched in 2013 and serves as a major tool for recruitment for the Islamist militant group. Set to start on July 20th, tens of thousands of the so-called pioneers of the liberation are expected to take part and undergo basic military training. Whether from elementary school or in their early 20s, all of the Gazan youth is invited to attend. Throughout the week, Al-Qassam instructors run a series of workshops for Gazan boys and girls aimed at instilling them with Islamic ideology while still preparing them militarily.
Yeah, so children are literally being trained by these terrorist groups. There's 20-something terrorist groups throughout Judea and Samaria and in Gaza Strip. They're training the children to kill Israelis. So, again, the BBC is asking all the wrong questions and pointing the public in absolutely the wrong direction. That's what we're here for. Set the record straight and get people to understand what is the truth. What is actually going on here? We're talking about the most moral army in the entire world, the IDF. They're using every possible situation and effort to save civilian life and take out those that are responsible and those that are trying to achieve a goal of killing Jewish people. That's the IDF's goal. And of course, all these questions are completely biased. These are not truthful. Hey, y'all, we'll be right back. But first, our friends at Blessed by Israel ship beautiful products of small businesses and families from Israel's heartland to people all around the world. You can now buy the wonderful taste, smells, and goodness of the Promised Land. Check out the amazing extra virgin olive oil, savory spices, cosmetics, hand creams, soaps, lotions, chocolate, coffee, and much, much more. The best part about this is that at the same time as you're enjoying the goodness of the land of Israel, you are also blessing the faithful pioneers who are restoring and rebuilding Judea and Samaria. That's right. Your purchases are an effective way to contribute to the strengthening of Israel. So head over to Blessed by Israel, that's BUYIsrael.com, to buy the wonderful products of Israel's heartland and support the pioneers of Judea and Samaria. Again, that's Blessed by BUYIsrael.com. The link is in the description below. Now I want to break it down a little bit more. Let's get right in. We're going to go to the top. We'll hear it from some of the, straight from the mouth of, let's go to Hussam Zamlat. He's ambassador, head of the Palestinian mission to the UK, former head of the PLO mission to the US. He's a strategic affairs advisor to the president of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, and his associates. So this is an interesting fellow, but what I want to understand is he also gets interviewed by the BBC. The BBC also had some good questions for him. I'll give it to the BBC on questions they had for him. But what I want to dig in here is this person currently in the UK is, what is he saying? Because he is also defending these terrorists. And I want you to understand what's going on behind the backdrop with him. The question is asked, Israel says in the situation in Jenin, we'll quote here, Israel says that these are specifically targeted attacks at ammunition stores and the people they consider terrorists, that they say is about this is about security We'll play this clip real quick.
Sorry, forgive me for interrupting. It's just that Israel, of course, says that these are specifically targeted attacks at ammunition stores and at people that they consider terrorists. They say it's about the security of Israelis.
Now, this is what I really want to focus on. It's a great question. Great question that the BBC gives here. And I want to see his answer. This is a patent answer the Palestinian Authority, as the ambassador here, gives back to the BBC. Let's play this clip.
The heart of it is that Israel wants to crush our soul, our people, our population, wants to continue militarily occupying us, wants to continue its illegal settlement expansion in the occupied territory. 13,000 units, illegal settlement units, were approved this year only. These are 3 times as many as last year. These are the root causes of all the issues. So let's not get dragged into the Israeli propaganda and spin that this is a military operation. This is not a military operation. This is an invasion, an aggression. This is crushing a nation, and this has been going on for 75 years.
I want to diagnose this really quickly. Maybe it went over your head. What is he actually saying? Well, it's a bunch of falsehoods to start with. He says settlements are the real problem, and this has been going on for 75 years. Okay, that right there in itself is hysterical to me because that is not even consistent with his own argument. So settlements are the problem, and this has been going on for 75 years. Do you know settlements haven't been around for 75 years? This is really hysterical because even the spokesperson himself has no earthly idea what he's saying, and he knows that it's falling on ears that do not know the history of Israel, do not know the situation on the ground here. The settlement movement has only been going on since 1967, the beginning when the IDF came and liberated. They didn't come and take over lands that weren't belonging to them. They liberated their ancient homeland. And this battlefront of this terror organizations have been against that. It's flipping truth on its head, and it's saying without any facts, and again, the Arab narrative that is being at play here has 0 facts attached to it, coming directly from a man of his stature. He should be given the truth, but it tells you a deeper truth. He actually knows what he's saying, and he's saying that, yes, the problem goes back 75 years, not 56 years. 75 years is when the nation of Israel was born. He's telling us, if we actually understand what he's saying, he's telling us that this issue is not a settlement issue, although they want to blame it on the settlements right now because that feels good in the world stage. He's telling us that the real issue was the birth of the Jewish nation in 1948. Don't be mistaken. He believes that these terrorists are actually a good thing, and we will play that in just a moment. These terrorists are actually a good thing, and that they will achieve their ultimate goal of driving the Jews not out of the settlements. Come on, you got to get him right. He said it with his own mouth. They want to drive them out of all of Israel and bring a 23rd Arab state. 22 is not enough. 1 Jewish state's too many for them, right? Because their war, all the Arab nations combined, has historically been to rid the planet of Jews. They were right along with Hitler's plan. They have tons of historic documents that link them together. They were friends with Nazis. They tried to do the same thing here. Thank God it did not work. Let's get another question here, and this will nail it. The exact thing I'm pinpointing here is this question from the BBC is great. Do you accept that there are terrorists in the Jenin camp? Let's play it right from the BBC. You got to believe it. See it to believe it.
Do you accept that there are terrorists in the Jenin camp?
No, I don't accept that. No, I don't. Nor should you, nor anyone in the international community. Refer to the international law, please. This terrorism has been used for a long time against the Palestinian quest for basic rights, for collective rights, for liberation, for independence, for our right to go back to our properties, for our right to live in dignity and respect, for our right to move, to work. This is unacceptable. The only terrorist act is done by an aggressor, by an occupier, by a colonizer, and has been lasting for 75 years.
Thank you very much.
All right. So you're telling me, this is a quote, no, I don't accept that, and neither should you. He doesn't accept the fact that people running around with machine guns and killing innocent Israeli civilians is terror. He believes that his argument is so sound that Israel is the occupier, is the one that is actually is the wrong. They're the actual terrorist in his statements. The real terrorist is Israel, and he says it again. If you were to listen to the whole clip, he says it again. He says that it's the 75 years. He mentions 75 years again, mentioning again that it's not the settlements, even though he said that earlier. Settlements were not around. He's saying the real problem is the Jewish people, and the Jews being in Israel. All Jews being in Israel are terrorists. They are against. He said the real terrorist is Israel. 75 years. Now, unbelievable that he could get away with saying this kind of content on the world stage and that the world would actually go down with believing this kind of rhetoric. Now, obviously, we here at the Israel Guys are setting the record straight, and you should know the truth about what's actually going down. And again, one of the best things, these kind of guys are great to listen to because you can understand the narrative behind it, and you can, once you know it, boy, you can go through it and absolutely just annihilate the ideology with no real trouble. He says the real problem is settlers building homes. The real problem is settlers building homes? Give me a break. The real problem is settlers building homes. When the people he's defending are running around like wild, terrorists with machine guns, shooting and going crazy, and he's telling the BBC the real problem is settlers building homes. And if you were to listen again to the whole interview, it was absolutely crazy. But he says the real problem was the thousands of homes that were just that settlers were just able to build. Nonsense. You're going to say people building homes is the real problem when people running around with machine guns and shooting people. It's just the necessary means to solving the issue. Obviously, off his rocker and completely insane. Absolutely insane. Let's one more time. We're closing up here, but the CNN opening. This clip is hysterical. The whole world's going nuts over the IDF going in and taking out terrorists. Is that insane to you? It's insane to me. Why the world would go nuts about the IDF going out and taking terror units out. They're terror units. Care less if they're 16, 17, 18. They're terror units, and they're focused on taking out this terror infrastructure, but the world's going absolutely crazy. CNN opens up with thousands attending funerals. Now, that's you want to blow your numbers and make something that thousands attending funerals. They're not going to talk about how courageous the IDF is for going in and taking out terrorists. Most people don't sympathize with terrorists. I don't sympathize with terrorists. I congratulate Israel when they take out a terrorist, and so should you at that matter. I'll play this clip really quickly here from CNN.
Israel's military says that it was targeting terror infrastructure, that it took out weapons sites, that its objective was to neutralize what it called a terror haven here in Jenin. But many of these families tell us they were simply caught in the crosshair. I mean, look at the damage to this vehicle. Some of these cars, again, you can see them strewn all around. These families, 7,000 to 8,000 people now, have nowhere to sleep tonight. So these families are wandering about trying to figure out, is their home still standing? Where do they sleep tonight? What's happened to their place?
All right, so a few things. Cars strewn around, families caught in the crossfires, all this stuff. Do you guys understand? The Jenin camp is a terror hub. People don't just live in the Jenin camp. They are made to live there by the Palestinian Authority. That's not the place you want to live. That's not the place you raise your family. Israel has nothing to do with the people that live there unless it gets so crazy whacked out of hand that they have to go in, and they have to go in with bulldozers because of the threat of bombs. Yes, that's why the IDF sent bulldozers in front. The CNN report here would like you to think that Israel just came in and wrecked the place just because. No, they came into an actual landmine, booby-trapped, unbelievable situation that you would never, no country in the world would send their soldiers into a situation like that without doing it identically to what the IDF did. Now, CNN would want you to think that Israel just went in and tore up stuff just in spite. No, that's not at all what happened. And they also got their numbers completely, blatantly Wrong. They say 7,000 to 8,000 people strewn out around the streets looking for a place to stay. No, that's also not true at all. The actual factual number that you're hearing reported is 3,000, but even that is not correct. 3,000 people looking for a place to stay. No, people have outside homes. That is a refugee camp. You don't have a refugee camp somewhere for 3 generations straight, going on 4. That doesn't exist. These people have places to stay outside. They choose to be political, either they choose or are made to be political pawns in the hand of the Palestinian Authority. Do not get that wrong. This is no refugee camp like any other in the entire universe. This is idiotic. Lastly but not least here, the New York Times always has a little chip to throw in there. They say it very clearly, and we're wrapping up. They say, let's take this picture right here. They have this picture in their post about the Jenin story, and in their picture here, they have the IDF Jeep, they have the terrorists that started fires, but then what they did not realize is they were actually... there's some really important truth in this picture. The whole Jenin situation, the IDF Jeeps there's a picture, like a poster, on the top right corner of this picture that you'll see, and that is a terrorist that the city of Jenin is praising as a shaheed, one that is praised in the city of Jenin. If you don't understand, a city that supports and praises terrorists and those that kill Jews are honored on the streets, on the roundabouts in the city, that city has problems. And no one, no BBC, no New York Times, and no CNN should be supporting terrorists in the city of Jenin to continue their attacks against Israel. This is blatantly anti-Israel, and it's blatantly evil for that matter. Guys, enough on that. I hope that you fully understand the issues that Israel is facing, and I hope that today's report has helped you get there. Guys, as always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the heartland of Israel. We'll be back every Monday through Friday with your direct report here from the land of Israel. Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, Israel's biblical heartland. Unfortunately, hardly any of the 2.5 million tourists that visit Israel every year come to the place most of the world calls the West Bank. The reality is that more than 80% of the Bible was either written or occurred here, and we consider it one of Israel's best kept gems. We don't know of any other Israel tour that focuses exclusively on Judea and Samaria other than the Heartland Experience. 2 parts tour, 1 part volunteer program. The Heartland Experience is designated to introduce you to the land and people that call this place home in an unforgettable and completely unique way. We've gotten incredible reviews from previous Heartland Experience programs that we hosted in 2022, and our next trip is November 27th through December 10th. To find out more and apply for this trip, visit serveisrael.com/volunteer or click the link in the description below.